Welcome to another edition of Forecast Lab. A day late, but we made it. We are already into late June, shifting gears into hurricane season, and indeed we do have a tropical storm along the Texas coast this afternoon. Also some severe weather in the Midwest, and tornado watches in effect across Illinois and Indiana. And this has been quite the year for severe weather in the Midwest. Not so much activity in the Great Plains. Illinois and Indiana seem to be where it's at this year, and that trend certainly continues into today. Here's what we have at the current time. This chart is probably a little bit hard to read, but there is the moderate risk from Springfield to Indianapolis, and the first warnings are already starting to come out. This is the tornado watch box. Here's a look at how things evolved going back to about midnight last night in the Dakotas. Fast-moving wave drop in the southeast, and we get the MCS developing around dawn in Iowa, moving into Illinois and Indiana. That's the first MCS, and then back behind it we've got the second one developing, and that one is definitely more severe. A little bit of interaction with the boundaries from the number one MCS, currently tracking out towards Ohio and Indiana. The current radar out of central Illinois as we record this shows the severe warnings followed by the tornado warnings. Those are in purple. We have at least 3 major supercells extending from Springfield to Champaign. At the current time, no confirmed tornadoes. A quick run through of the severe weather composite. This is what we have this afternoon. We have the upper level jet right there, the diffluence, the little zigzag line right there, the 925 millibar dew point field, the higher dew point values, the 925 millibar jet right there, 850 millibar shear, that's where we have the highest SRH, the 700 millibar dry slot, that can be associated with some of the stronger downbursts. That's not really all that significant for today. Area of positive vorticity advection right there, that's the stronger dynamic lift, but this area has already been overrun by some very strong lift as it is. The 500 millibar thermal trough, that's going to be the colder temperatures aloft, where we have the steeper lapse rates, a little bit up to the north there. And the 500 millibar height falls, that does tell us roughly where the trough is located. And of course, the moderate risk area and the fronts. And that's all part of the surface map that you see right here. Triple point across southeastern Iowa with a warm front extending southeast through Illinois and into Indiana. No surprise that some of that severe weather is right there along that warm front. Cold front extending southwest into Kansas and down to the south, dry line, and some very hot temperatures in West Texas. Heat advisories cover a large part of Texas from western Oklahoma down to the Rio Grande, and extreme heat warnings. Those come into effect tomorrow, as we're going to see some really intense heat indexes. For today, however, extreme heat warnings for the Concho Valley down to the Big Bend and in the Roswell area. These are the forecast highs for this afternoon, and these are air temperatures. These are not feels like or heat index or anything like that. They were expecting near 110 at Big Spring, 110 at Roswell. Here's a look at the current conditions: 111 at Monahans, 110 at Pecos, 108 at Big Spring, at Denver City and Seminole, and 108 at Roswell, which has not yet reached 110 from what I can tell. 104 at Lubbock with cooler temperatures as you get off of the Caprock. And for tomorrow, the heat shifts south. Some cooler air flows into the panhandles, but scorching temperatures along Interstate 20 into the Edwards Plateau region. This area here doesn't look like much, but we're going to see some dangerous heat index values, plenty of surface moisture, which is pushing those dew points up. We're going to see heat indexes from 116 to 124. And I'm not sure I've ever seen values that high in Texas. It may have happened, but I don't have any memory of that. This is going to be certainly a high-impact heat event. Extreme heat warnings and watches in effect from Austin to San Antonio, Eagle Pass, all the way to Brownsville, and as far east as LaGrange and Victoria. A few locations in the Rio Grande Plains may see heat indexes above 100 degrees all the way through 1 a.m. tomorrow night. A major reason for those problems tomorrow is the very high dew points due to extensive ground moisture that will translate into dew points from 78 to 82 degrees, the highest readings around Rockport to Port Lavaca. There is the resulting heat index temperatures above 120 in far south Texas, 110s into east Texas. Again, this is at 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. And we have Tropical Storm Arthur along the Texas coast, the main precipitation area pretty far to the east, but the low-level circulation right in this area here. If you take a close look, you can see the very intense southeasterly flow right there from Houston to Beaumont, and a more circular motion in the cloud field south of Houston. The current mesoscale analysis for southeast Texas showing the main precipitation field south of Lake Charles. There is Houston, and we look at the wind field, and we do see a cyclonic circulation. And that kind of draws us into the Bay City area. So regardless of what we see there on the satellite imagery, the surface chart definitely paints out where that center of circulation is, and the lower pressure is 29.54 to 29.57 at Bay City and Lake Jackson. And that is the center of Arthur. The tropical storm is going to gradually weaken as it moves inland. However, what we're going to be concerned about is mostly the precipitation. A very large flood watch extending all the way from Beaumont and Lake Charles to Atlanta and Macon. We've got a Weather Prediction Center moderate risk for excessive rainfall for much of southeastern Louisiana and southern Mississippi, and a moderate risk of excessive rainfall for Thursday and Friday across much of southern Mississippi and Alabama. So this is going to be a multi-day event with a potential for 7 to 10-inch rainfall amounts. There's the latest forecast on Tropical Storm Arthur, rapid weakening into a tropical depression and ending up around Lufkin or Jasper. That's going quite a bit left of the previous projections. The global models had that moving into Beaumont and towards Jackson and gradually dissipating. But we're trending more towards the north. There's the regional hurricane model output. There's how the consensus models were looking, and they do appear to be leaning a little bit to the north of some of those dynamical model tracks. And there is the ensemble from the GFS, and we're right at the northern edge of all of those ensemble members. So that shows you the difficulty handling these weak and poorly defined systems. A few more charts for your perusal showing the temperatures well above average in the West Texas and Panhandles area, below normal in the Great Lakes and the Dakotas, and that shows you the cold air that is flowing south behind that dynamic weather system in Illinois. Very high precipitable water amounts continue in the Gulf Coast area, 2 to 2.5, which is certainly above average and getting into some of that deep tropical moisture that sustains very heavy precipitation, and we see that that's going to be the case over the next couple days, and a return of deep moisture into Texas and Oklahoma. As we go into the weekend, we see that moisture does continue across much of the southeastern U.S., so really not much end to this very wet pattern. Then going into next week, some of it starts filtering up into the Great Plains. That'll feed another round of severe weather around midweek. The 500 millibar heights and vorticity showing the polar front jet from Washington into the Corn Belt and the strong dynamics on the nose of that jet. And there is the mid-level circulation for Arthur, well east of the center of circulation. And when we have that tilt in the vertical, that tells us it's not really barotropic like we would expect with a tropical weather system. Going into tomorrow and on Friday, another outbreak of severe weather into the northeastern U.S. for tomorrow afternoon. And then going into Friday and Saturday, troughing through the northeastern U.S., and that means cooler weather and unsettled. And then we go into Saturday and Sunday, Monday, not really much to talk about. Some ridging starting to lurk from the south, and we're looking for maybe those heights to really start coming up in Arizona, 594 and possibly 597. And when we get that, we're talking about 115 temperatures in the deserts. So hot weather on tap for the southwest. Okay, we're going to check back in on the radar shortly at the end of this, but let's take a look at the forecast and put the maps into motion. All of this storm activity will move into Ohio this evening, into New York and Pennsylvania. Then we're looking at another round for tomorrow. Triple point into the Hudson River Valley. Storms could blow up along that cold front right there and in parts of New England. That front drapes all the way into Texas, and a very strong combined heat low and dynamic low around Big Spring and Sweetwater, Snyder, kind of in that area right there. Cold advection flowing in with temperatures in the 80s, but very hot weather continues south of that low. Plenty of rain through the southeastern U.S. as that precipitable water field and that disturbance, the remnants of Arthur, continue to drift into the east. So now we've got another frontal boundary sinking into the area. When we get these stagnant boundaries sinking south, those are always a focus for convection. So certainly a rainy pattern coming up for the next several days through the southeastern U.S., as if we haven't had a rainy pattern already. And storms continue across North Texas into Oklahoma and in this upslope here in the central high plains. So another round of severe weather this weekend into Saturday and Sunday. High pressure moves south and drives the convection into Texas and Oklahoma for Monday. And then another wave moves out across the central plains, and then a second one coming up for Wednesday and Thursday. So there's that right there. We're looking at maybe another Pacific system moving into the northern high plains, but not much effect further to the south. This looks a little bit more typical of late June. A tornado was confirmed around the Springfield area earlier today. Tornado-warned storms continue, and this is the sequence of the radar over the past hour and a half as we've prepared this production. It appears these just have severe thunderstorm warnings on them all the way into eastern Missouri. The stronger cells south of Champaign towards Effingham, so right there along Interstate 57, I believe. Yeah, I used to drive that a lot when I went to forecast school at Chanute, Illinois. That's right up here. That was a long time ago. Okay, time for me to get this program rendered and uploaded, so I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe, however that saying goes. Like, comment, and subscribe. Very much appreciated. That does create engagement with the channel, which provides support, and we can always use that, either Patreon or your interaction with YouTube, whatever works for you. All right, so hope you have a great Wednesday night. We'll see you back here on Friday. Take care. Bye-bye.